Welcome, everyone. I hope you have just enjoyed coffee and bagel just now and spent some time meeting other attendees. We'll be randomly selecting one participant as a winner for the $50 Grubhub gift card. The winner will be receiving an email from us in a few minutes, so please be on the lookout for that. It looks like from the first break today, the lucky winner was Mary Todd at Idaho Housing Finance Association. Congratulations, Mary. Enjoy that Starbucks gift card and have a nice cup of coffee or two on ProLink Solutions. The session you have just joined is Data Views in ProLinkHFA and will be presented by Sarah Supernant at ProLink Solutions. As a reminder, you are on track 1 ProLinkHFA multifamily track. Before we start the session, I'd like to take a few minutes to cover some housekeeping items. First, on the right side of your screen, you have access to the chat feature. This particular session is a live session. And while the speaker, Sarah, is focusing on presentation, we have Kelly Encinias, who is a customer adoption manager at ProLink Solutions. She will be monitoring the chat throughout the session. So please feel free to post any questions or comments throughout the session in the chat, and Kelly will be responding to you in real time. Or Sarah will follow up with you after the session. Please note that your posts and comments are visible to all other attendees. Also on the right side of your screen, you have access to the poll feature. Throughout the session, 3 poll questions will be displayed one by one. When you provide your response each time, you'll be able to see the poll result in real time. So we encourage you to participate. This is where you can download a copy of Sarah's PowerPoint. You can download anytime before, during, or after her session. So now, without further ado, I will introduce the session speaker, Sarah Supernant. She is a customer success manager at ProLink Solutions. She's been with us for 12 years, and I'm sure many of you have interacted with Sarah over the years. Sarah addresses client-submitted tickets and questions by working with the product team for resolutions. She also provides clients with the latest enhancements and updates on all ProLink products. She'll be covering the topic of ProLinkHFA data views and reporting today. So Sarah, you can share your screen now, and please take it away.
Of course, I'm having technical difficulty sharing my screen.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to have you joining us today. I'm going to present some information about data views in ProLinkHFA, primarily using PowerPoint. Let me get the right one up here for you. And I may go back and forth in the system. If you have any questions, just put them in the Q&A, and we'll try to address them later. I know Kelly will be manning the chat. We have a few items to go through. We have our introduction to data views, and then the basics, how to work with your data, creating a custom view, and a bonus using UDFs, which are user-defined fields for your reporting and data views. Some of you may be familiar with UDFs and have used them. Some of you may not, so this could be new for you. So after we get through our introduction to data views, you'll know what a data view is and why you would use it, how to organize your data view and how the structure is set up in the system, and the types of data views that we have available for you in ProLinkHFA. So first and foremost, data views allows you to look at all your data in various modules throughout the system. If you have just the TC module, you know that you have various data views that pull out different types and combinations of TC data. Same thing for properties, dev, and any other module that we have in the system. We can group, we can sort, we can filter, we can quick search, and we'll be reviewing all these pieces of functionality throughout the presentation. So likely today, if you haven't come over to ProLink, a lot of your data that you populate manually lives in spreadsheets. And with data views, it's going to take all the information that you have transferred into the ProLink database and give you a way to utilize that, display it, filter it, and then export it for your reporting. So there's 3 ways you can do this. It's just create a report through View Manager and export it. You can just do a quick query and I misspelled analysis, I apologize. An analysis just for basic data. I know for me that when I'm testing or I'm looking for information, I lean very heavily. I rely on data views almost on a daily basis. And navigation, if you can't find something in the system, you can do a quick search for it if you're looking for a specific subset of data, and then get to that information just by clicking the record in the data view. So the way we have this is data views are organized around the functional areas. We have favorites. We have all the public views that are created in your system that are available to you based on your module. Areas AM and Dev are based on different modules and functions throughout the system. And this is just kind of a example of, like, under portfolio property, we have many different data views targeting many different points of data. And once you expand that folder, you'll see all the data view options. So let's kind of go in here live. So right here, I have the properties data view that's up. I have a feeling I'm going to have to log in again because I've neglected it for a while. And your data view option will be over under your what we call the left nav panel, left navigation panel. And you can see the top folder and the subsets. You can also collapse these so you can focus just on what you need. And that's something we've added in the past year. This is our demo site, so I've got pretty much every module in the system in here. We also added favorites. So if you want to select a data view to save as a favorite, you can do that as well, and it will be available in there. So data views under each area will contain information about the associated item at the top level. For dev deal, properties, loan, and TCA deal, and a few other modules, you're going to have checklists and checklist items under pretty much every module. You'll have a portfolio properties option under your dev deal because sometimes you do have your dev deal associated to your properties, same thing with TCA deal. So if those are connected, you can search by either one in a data view. And then again, every functional area kind of has its own children data views, accounting, tracking, and change orders for dev. Portfolio properties would have 8823s and bends, for example. Loan and TCA deal have their own objects that are associated to a data view. I'm going to bear with me for just a moment. Okay, so the basics of data views. How the screen's laid out, how you navigate through it, understanding the system navigation, and then the export. So here we have again the data view that kind of shows by county. I had that set up to show in our slideshow. Each screen, each data view screen are going to have options in the top toolbar when you go up there. Now, not every view will have a new button. You can only create new records from very specific data views. There's really not that many out there. So every time you go into a data view, when you select that from the data view panel, you're going to see several options up here. And I'm going to explain all the actions that you can take with those items. I have them listed new. Again, some allow you to create, some don't. When we select on View Manager, that's going to be the way that you create your own custom views. If you just only want like 3 or 4 fields of data that you're reporting on or you need to review, you will be able to do that through View Manager. Cancel will take you out of the data view and return you to your previous screen. Export will export what you have on the screen currently. If you've searched or filtered or grouped or sorted, it's going to export to Excel in the format that you've kind of arranged your data view at that point. Unformatted export's just going to export everything. It's not going to be formatted. It will not be sorted and grouped. That's kind of a time saver. If you just need raw data, you can do that. The turn filter and grid on and off is going to allow you to filter and then reset that filter. So you don't have to filter by the items that you had selected, and you can start over. Restore will just remove all filters that you have. Instead of, if you filtered by 3 or 4 columns, instead of going in and kind of no filter, you can just be like restore it and get rid of them all at one time. And then set as favorite will add the current data view to your favorites list. Use the arrows to navigate to the first, previous, next, and last pages of results. I'll kind of show you what that looks like. So here in our HFA demo system, we have 2,200 properties in here. And I've selected this by all properties. So we have 114 pages and we have 20 rows displayed per page. So if I want to go to the next page, just click the arrow, I can do that. If I want to go to the 100th page, I can do that by typing in 100 down here and then clicking go. And that's going to take me to the 100th page. If you want to change the number of rows displayed on your screen, if you're like, I need to see like 100 one time, you can change this. I believe we have 20, 50, 100, and 500. But the more columns you have and the more rows displayed you've selected, it could slow things down a little bit. So just be aware of that if that's something that you're going to do. Now, if you want to filter just by alphabet, you can click on a letter of the alphabet, and it will bring up everything that starts with a specific name that starts with S, as I've done here. And if you want to reset it, click all. Now, there's kind of this is kind of one of those things you learn by messing up. I once upon a time had a alpha filter set on my data view, and I couldn't understand why all the records weren't coming back. And I hadn't realized that I selected the data or the alpha sort on a data view. And so I had to put in a ticket and have a developer tell me, you just need to click the all button. So always make sure that, if you're not seeing all the data you want, make sure that you just click the all on your alpha sort so you don't panic like I did. You can search your records by entering quick search and criteria and clicking search. And on each data view, you can hover over. It usually has a little ellipsis here, and when you hover over that, it's going to tell you which criteria it can search by. And so if you want to search by a specific number, you can enter that there, or deal name, etc. And that will allow you to return the records based on the criteria that you have entered. Now, once you've done that, and you've gotten your criteria returned to your data view, you can just select on a record and it's going to take you directly to that record. Like, for example, let's go into here. First of all, we're going to deselect that, make sure all is in there. So that's good. I'm just doing a random search on criteria. So for example, here we have Barclay Square. I'll just click on that. And this is going to take me to the edit property screen for that particular property. And if I want to go back to the data view, I just hit cancel, and it's going to take me back to my data view. The export is going to contain the records using the current filter sorting and grouping. So this will be the one that I told you was formatted. So we'll go over here and try this really quick. How do we want to sort this? We'll do a filter. And we'll do Fairfax County. So I have 149 records returned because I filtered by Fairfax County. I'll click export. And then down here, my Excel will show it, and it's going to open in my other screen, of course. So give me a moment and I'll bring it over. And as you can see, it's only pulled back the records for Fairfax County. So that's a neat tool for your reporting when you're trying to isolate specific subsets of data. All right, now we're going to talk about working with your data and kind of manipulating it for what you need. Sorting, grouping, and in-grid filters, I kind of touched on that a little bit, but we're going to go into that a little more in depth. So sorting is kind of an art form. Sometimes you have to click kind of directly on the label to get it to sort. So when you first have your data view, usually most data views have a default sort. And you can tell when you go to a data view if it has a default sort. Whoops, pardon me. Because that column is going to be highlighted and it's going to have a little arrow next to it. When you look at these others, you can see that they don't have that. They don't have any of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restore default filters and get rid of all the filters. And then if I want to click this, it's going to unsort. And then I think it might go by HFA number. Let's see. Oh, come on. The art form. Now it's doing it by descending because you can see that the arrow is going down. So it's doing alphabetical descending starting with Z. Now, if I click this one more time, it's going to totally unsort it. It's not going to be orange anymore. And it's going to default sort by the HFA number. So that's how your sort would normally work. I'm going to go ahead and put the sort back on. Now, then you can also sort by secondary columns. So if we want to do property and county, it's going to bring these up associated to the county. And this kind of shows you what I did with like the start. When it starts, it's unsorted because you don't see an arrow. When you do your first click, it's going to do smallest to largest ascending. Second click will be largest to smallest descending. And if you want to completely unsort, click it a third time. And you'll know for sure that it's no longer sorting on that column because it will not be this color and the arrow will also not be there. The multiple sort, here's an example here, is sorting by many colors at one time. This comes in handy for if you're doing servicer and loan numbers. You should look for another column to see how it's sorted before you do that. And hovering over any sorted column will show a list of all sorted columns. So let's kind of show you what that looks like real quick. I'm going to go over here and go into loans. I'm going to turn off my filters. And then I'm going to select to go by servicer first. We'll go ascending because if they're blanks, the blanks will show up first. And then I could do servicer loan number. And that's going to show you how it's currently sorted once you have two columns in there. When you highlight it, it will say, hey, servicer descending, servicer loan number ascending. So that's kind of that slide in action. So if you want to group your records by a column, you can drag the column header row into the grouping target area. And when you see the black arrows pointing to the grouping area, you're on target. This is also kind of an art form as far as getting this to work correctly. We're going to go back over to properties. If you can't tell, properties is my favorite data view. It's the one I spend the most time with. So I'm going to unsort county just because I'm about to group by county. Third click takes the sort off, as you can see. So let's go ahead and group by county. I'm going to click on the column, and you can kind of see where it's kind of comes out, pops out and says county. And then I'm going to drag it over here. You can see those little black arrows, and then I'm going to drop it. So now it's going to sort by county. Some of these don't have counties listed, of course. So let's go over a couple of pages. So here you can see where you have your beige grouping bar, and it says, this is the county. These are all the properties that are associated to that particular county. Then you go on down and so on and so on. So that's how your grouping is going to look when you group by one item. Now in group rows, some columns will show subtotal summing the values of all rows. If you configure which columns, you can go into data view admin and do that. And that's something that, you know, is only an admin in your agency will be able to do. But you can see here, if you have this grouped by like loan status funded, then it's going to show you the total loan amount for that particular loan status. And then it's going to say for each one, like, and then at the very bottom, it's going to total it up. So let's kind of go over and look at that for a second. I'll go back into loans. And then we will, let's see, let's group by servicer. So you can see here, we have servicer, Wilshire Loan and Trust, the loan amount. It's going to add up down here. I don't know what this is going to do, we'll find out. So if I do loan amount, it's going to show each loan servicer loan number and how much the loan amount is on the beige grouping bar. And then it's going to show your total displayed on the screen down here for your total. So again, this is something that you would set up for a particular view in data view admin. And I believe that's another session that we'll go over later, or you can contact me or Kelly directly or ask her in the chat. And I think that she'll kind of be able to show you where you go for that, if you have the permissions to do so. So multiple groups, we kind of did this a little bit. You can group by multiple columns by dragging the second column to the grouping area, and you can switch the order of the group by dragging right-hand group to the left. So I'm going to ungroup and just like pull out that loan amount, and it's just going to go away. And then I'm going to do service through loan number over here. So now we have it grouped by servicer and the loan number, which most of them only have one. If I want to switch that and do loan number to servicer, that may not be the best example, but you can do that. Or this is another art form. Oh, there we go. It's thinking about it. So now I've done it by servicer loan number, which won't show up in the beige, but the servicer will show up in your little beige info bar right there. So that's another way to group and resort your group, for lack of a better word. You can set the sort order of the groups by setting the sort order of the columns that are grouped, again, by the arrows. So once you have everything grouped, you can sort like you would normally before you had items that were grouped. And then, like I showed you previously, if you just want to remove the grouping, you just click on that and you drag it and just unclick your mouse, and then it's going to be gone. And you can tell because instead of seeing the name of a column here, you're going to see this verbiage saying, hey, this is how you group if you need to. All right. Excuse me. Working with your data, advanced in-grid filters. So I believe somebody talked about, I don't know if Dominic is, I'm going to put this over here. I don't know if Dominic is on the call from New York, but I know we talked about this. Learning how to do between the dates is something that I have struggled with, and I've never been able to get it clear, but now we do. Some of the in-grid filters you can search on contains, you can search on between. So we're going to do a little bit of that on properties, just to give you a high level view of how you would do that. We'll start with portfolio properties. And I'm going to unsort because I had, or excuse me, ungroup because I had that grouped earlier. It always takes me a couple of times to do it. So let's turn the filter on. So you have various ways to sort your data by filter if you want to get a specific subset. So let's say, let's sort by property use over here. So I'm going to type in supportive housing. correctly. Very important to type correctly, and put contains. So we're going to go from 2,700 records to 436 records. So this has brought back all the properties that have supportive housing as a property use type. And well, we have some inactive ones in here. We don't want to report on the inactive ones in this particular scenario that I am making up. So I'm going to select that and say this is equal to yes. I only want properties, supportive housing that are active. So now it is refined that down to 215 records. And do we want to, let's say we just want to report on greater than 5 units. So greater than or equal to, we're filtering this down even more. And now we're down to 142 records. So filters help you really get down to a very granular layer of data that you might require for your reporting, instead of having to like go through Excel and use Excel tables, which you can still do if you want to do that. You can just do an unformatted export, format your Excel as a table, and then look at your data that way. Some of you who have worked with me, and I've sent you a spreadsheet that's been filtered to assist with something you were looking for. Dates. So I want to show you this in action, because I know that a lot of times that we're looking for, especially with compliance programs and reviews, and we'll go into that particular data view, compliance programs. So I've created a view called compliance start and end date, so we can kind of look at the between. And sometimes I had thought it used a comma or like a quotation mark. You don't. So I just want to find compliance reviews with a start date between 01/01/2014 and 01/01/2021. So I'm going to put those dates in. There's no format. They're just, here's the first date that I wanted to start looking at, and then the second date. So once I hit between, it's only going to bring back 63 records, and all the start dates are between those two dates. So when you're working with a between, try to remember this is the format. If you forget, put in a ticket. I'll help you. If it's not working correctly, put in a ticket. We will figure it out. So you can also do not between, which is similar to the between. It'll be like, yeah, it's going to exclude the values that you have in there. And each column, depending on the data type, is going to have a different format of what you can do. Is empty, is not empty, greater than 0, et cetera, et cetera. So playing, when you get time to play with the data views, some of you are already experts, but for those of you who aren't, you can go in. And the great thing about data views is you're not changing data, you're just rearranging data. So you can go in there and play around and train yourself to your heart's content if you would like to. You can also use the between and not between for currency amounts. It'll kind of do the same thing. It's less tricky than dates, but it's the same idea that we went through with the compliance program dates. So I'm going to take a drink of water real quick. Please excuse me. Now for one of the best functions of data views that I can think of is like how you can create a custom view. And custom views are awesome because when you first go in there, you get a default view. And sometimes that has more information than you need, and sometimes it doesn't have the information you need. So being able to go in and customize your own personal view for your own use is a very powerful aspect of our View Manager tool. You can also add advanced filters in there as well. You can put whatever columns you want in, and you can, when you first create a view as a user and you're logged in, that view is going to be available just to you. If you happen to create a data view that you've told other people about, that it's, kind of there's some talk about how great your data view is, you can have your data view admin person go in and update that view to become public. So everybody who can log into the system and has access to data views can use your data view because it's just that great. And won't that make you feel good? So yeah, you can share views and tips and tricks when you get in there and start creating your own view. So the overview of what View Manager does when you select View Manager on your data view and bring it up, it's going to bring up your View Manager modal. You have several options of what you want to do. If there's a view that you like that's already out there, you can bring that up and copy it and then kind of customize it to what you want. It's very easy. It says available columns on the left. Selected columns are on the right. Now, selected columns are the ones that when you put them in there, that's what's going to be on your data view. Those are the only ones. So you can have 3 columns selected. You can have all columns selected if you want to add all, which gets really messy and confusing. So I don't suggest that unless you have to. That's a report that you send to someone that you don't have to utilize that report. Let them do it. If you can't find a column, make sure that it's not in the selected columns list. This is, I tell you from experience, sometimes I've been like, I don't see it because it's in my selected column. So let's kind of go in and play around with this, and I can show you this in action. We're going to go back to properties because we've decided that is indeed my favorite. And I'm going to click up here on View Manager. It's going to open the modal. As you can see, we have a lot of data views in here. And it will tell you in the View Manager if that data view is public. Like these 2 down here with really lame view names, those are mine. But I want to just create a new one. So I clicked New, and I'm going to give my view a name because you have to. It's required. Now, each area, each data view is going to have what we call default fields. When you create a view, these fields are automatically going to show up over here in selected columns because they're the most utilized columns in a view. You can get rid of those. Like, I don't want congressional district. I don't want population served. How about I don't want property use or property type? Now I can hit Control and select both of those and highlight them all. And I don't want that either. So I'm going to remove, and it's going to remove those few. So let's see what I want to add. I'd like to add MSA. And I would also like to add management agent information. So I can do that. And then if I want to know how many, we have total units, total LIHTC units, I'm going to add that. And then if you want to move these around, because I don't need total LIHTC at the bottom, I ended up here next to total units. And you know what? Now I don't want asset manager. And I want to put MSA at the bottom. Hopefully you can see me clicking and I'm not going entirely too fast because everybody says I talk too fast. Not too much, too fast. And I like to note that. So here I've set up a data view that has specific information just for fun right now. And you can update the description here. This is just going to be your own personal view description. It would show up in a public view if you created it so people would know what it was for. So once I hit save and close, Sarah user group data view, the screen's going to refresh. And then I'm going to go up here into the view drop down. And there it is. So I select it and it brings up the custom view that I just created. And then it will show all the information that I selected. We have management information in here, total units versus total LIHTC units, etc. So that's kind of a real quick and dirty way to create your own view, just with basic columns. Then, of course, once you've created this view, you can go in here and filter, search, export, etc., however you need to get the data that you need. So we kind of did this. I kind of already went through this, but this PowerPoint is for you later if you need to refer to it and go through some of these that we would do. If this was like a normal training event, we would have exercises where you would right now, if you're not already, because you might be going in and playing around with the functionality and creating your own view just to see if you have a roadblock that you need to ask us about through Q&A. So advanced filters allow you to create more complex queries to bring your data set down even further. You can still use the in-grid filters, but you can kind of refine your results. So here in this example, I've created a data view that's going to display properties with less than 50 units, 50 or less units, I guess, and active is equal to yes. And I'll go back over here. We can show you how to do that. So this is the one I created for this demo, properties with, let's change the name. And you can do that if you've named your view incorrectly, which obviously I have. So that's a little more descriptive. So I'm going to save that. Now I've updated the name. It still has the data that I wanted. So your advanced filter, if you worked with workflow, which that's going to be another session, I believe, if you haven't, it's kind of the same thing as defining your criteria like you would anywhere else. This is where algebra counts. You know, we're finally using algebra in a very small way. So I have this set up, total units, less than or equal to 50. So the value for the properties that I want to see is only going to have total units that are 50 or less. And yes, it has to be an active property. And once you start doing, you know, adding your criteria up here, it's going to show you exactly what it's doing down here. So you can kind of read exactly what it's doing in case you have, some people visualize things differently and maybe easier for you to read it this way than figuring out what these are doing, because you can have all these options to arrange your criteria with, you know, and or add another group, reverse it. And then you can enter your filter description down here. So this particular view right here that we created a few minutes ago, it's showing 2,277 records. Now I'm going to go over and select the data view that we just updated, 50 units or less active. And because of that filter, it's only going to bring back 786 records because that's how many properties have 50 units or less in the system. Let's change this to 100 since it's not that many. And then I can continue to group however I want. If I want to group by county, I can do that. And then if I want to group by asset manager and county, I can do that. But that advanced filter is another way for you to get in granular with your data, depending on what kind of reporting that you need to do or what kind of information that you're looking for. All right, so how are we doing on time? We got about 15 more minutes, so I think we're doing good. User-defined fields. So when you hear us say UDF, because we obviously don't have enough acronyms, UDF is user-defined fields. I'm going to show you how to create a user-defined field, how to edit a value, and how to use the UDF in the data view for reporting. So you can also call these custom fields, but UDF seems to be our acronym of choice. So you can create these if the object exists in ProLinkHFA, and I'll kind of show you how you know how that, if it exists or not. And you can put them, you can smart docs them, and you can use them in data views as well. And workflow also, if you need to do some workflows, which again, another session, but workflows are pretty cool. Now, you won't see this tab, the custom fields tab on any object until you've actually added a user-defined field to the object in utilities, which we're going to go over real quick. So if you put in a ticket like, I don't have UDFs for this, it's because you haven't added one more likely than not, or it doesn't exist yet. You can get additional information for internal and external reporting based on like COVID, you know, hey, we have some COVID information that we need to add to this particular property. If you need more information for underwriting or scoring or, you know, finding out, okay, what properties or what deals are at a certain percentage of construction complete. So I can add that field if I don't know exactly how much it is, and then I can create a data view around it to get that information out of the data view. So you would go down to utilities for user-defined fields. This is also another area where you're going to have the correct security privs to access and utilize it to create your own. And I'm sure you have people at your agency that you can talk to, bribe, whatever you need to do to get access if you need to use this. So what that looks like in here, oh gosh, I might sneeze, so I apologize in advance. You have your main screen, the utilities, and then down here at the very almost bottom, we have user-defined fields. Now, when you click on user-defined fields in the utilities, this is going to kind of show you all the objects that exist. So let's change this to 50 since currently we only have about 32 in here. And basically, it's the screen where you're going to find those custom fields. We call them an object, but it's the screen, like edit dev properties, edit dev deals, and then my favorite, portfolio properties. So when you click on the object or the screen, it's going to show you all of the ones that exist. This is where you would add them. And you can also set them to active and inactive. Go back over here. You can do your in-grid filtering. Like here you see where I've done portfolio properties in the tab name. If you need to filter by like a numeric type or a field title to see, do we already have this field out here? Do I really need to capture this one for any reason whatsoever? You can go ahead and make sure it doesn't exist. So we're going to go back over here. Let's see. Let's say I'm like, okay, I know that I'm looking for an amount. Just to type in the word amount and put contains. And okay, these are all the currency fields. Maybe I need to add one. I don't know. But let's add a field here. So in order to add one, that's what you would do. You'd select add a new field. And then I'm just going to do Sarah test field. It's going to have your object type. Now, if you get in here and you want to change it, you can. But once you save it, that's it. It's done forever. If you select the wrong data type, I'm going to pick text area just because I want to, honestly, and show, because we've expanded the text area. I don't know if anybody has gone in here. Our text field used to be very small. Now it's the same size as most other text areas. Oops, that's wrong, 5K characters. So these are the required fields up here: field title, the data type you're going to use, and the object, and if it's active. So you can create a category, and then you can create this. I'll show you what this looks like on the property. You can create a section header name to keep all your UDFs separated on the tab. Now, category, I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. It's sort order for edit screen. And if you want to have these in a certain order on your edit screen, you can. So we're going to kind of see what this looks like here in a minute. On screen, you would select that if you want to see it on screen, which of course you do, data view and available in Smart Docs. If for some reason that you don't want this in Smart Docs, you can uncheck this and the field won't be there. So we have created a text area, we've given it a field title, a category name, and a section header name. I'm going to save and return, and it's going to take me back to the list user-defined fields for property. After it thinks about it for a minute. Oh, and let me unfilter. So now you're going to see that this is the one that I tried. The other thing before we go over to the property and look at it, right now, if we go over there, the tab is going to say custom fields. And let's say we want to change it to property UDFs. So now when you go to edit property, that tab is going to say property UDFs instead of custom. Let's go click over here into a property. Going to click on edit property. And here's where it's going to have property UDFs. Now, these are your categories that you identify on the actual UDF. And here you can see where I did Sarah fields, and here's the test field. This is the text field. So I've populated it for this particular property. Now, if you want to look at all of them, you'll see all of them. Here's your section header name that you can custom. customized for you. And a lot of you are already using UDF, so this is, old news to you. But the categories is kind of neat when you have a record that's got a lot of UDFs on it and you need to update them. This way you don't have to like wade through everybody else's stuff or a whole bunch of fields that aren't relevant to what you're doing. So we've added that, which means I've probably more than likely gone ahead of where our PowerPoint is. But it's just because it's so exciting and fun. I love UDFs. This PowerPoint is going to go over kind of some of the things that I breeze through, like the type of field data that you're going to have and is active. Okay, because the thing about custom fields, if you actually go out here and create a UDF and you use, you save it and you're like, oh, darn, it's a date field and it needs to be numeric. You can't delete it. You have to just mark it as inactive and kind of start over. And you can keep track of your inactive ones by just, prefacing the field title with inactive or oopsie, whatever you prefer. This goes over what we covered in more detail about what each section is for. And then I kind of showed you what we did over here. If you want to update the UDF that you've created, like you can also have an option for a pick list. You would go over to the tab on that, which we have named to property UDFs, and select the value that you want. And you can also populate those in Smart Docs. We kind of cover that just a little bit in our Smart Docs training. So any UDFs that you add to the system should be added to your custom views. Like, for example, and it's going to be prefaced by the category name if you added a category name, which they did. So let's go right over here. And I'm going to create a quick view. So when I go down here, here's some UDFs that have the category in front of them, and there's mine. And as you can see, it is prefaced by the category name and then the field title. So we're going to close that. And then I know I only filled out that value on one property. It's just one property. Please stand by. Oh, there we go. And there's the data that I populated in that particular text field. Now, if you have a lot of data in that text field, like over, like, I don't know, like 100 characters or something, it's going to have an ellipsis where you can hover over it and you can see all of the value or all the verbiage that you put in that particular field, which a lot of you probably know that. But for those of you who don't, you can just look at that. All right. I think that's all I have. And I'm looking at my watch to be like, I'm a little early, but not too terribly much. Kelly, I have Kelly over here on Teams. Is there anything else anyone's asked that you would like me to kind of go over? Because I'm kind of flying blind here.
No, Sarah, I think we answered all the questions in the chat. So we can end it a little early.
We can do another poll and ask if I talk too fast. That would be cool.
Those 3 poll questions were too easy. Everybody got it right.
That's because they're smart. They're not easy. We have smart people. Everybody who knows, they understand data views. They get it.
Yeah. So do you want me to
or
take
they read
over?
ahead on the PowerPoint. Doesn't matter. Whatever. Good.
So I'll take over, Sarah?
Go right ahead. Thank you all for your time and your patience as I stumble through the PowerPoint. Have a good one.
So we'll just wrap up with some housekeeping items here. Just a second. All right. So, well, thank you everyone for joining the session. I hope you found great value in the session. And as a reminder, your copy of Sarah's PowerPoint is available here. So you can also come back and watch the recording of the session anytime. Even after the conference is over, you're able to log back onto the platform for next 90 days to watch any of the session recordings. And the session survey is available on the right side of your screen. Please provide any feedback you might have on this particular session. In the survey, there is a place where you can type in any outstanding questions that are not answered during the session. And we only have one session left on day one of the conference. I hope you're enjoying the conference. By now, I'm sure you're familiar with how Coffee and Bagel works. Please join Coffee and Bagel right now to meet and chat with other attendees. During the next break, we'll be, again, randomly selecting one participant and award a $50 Amazon gift card. So please participate and spend some time with other attendees. And so far, today's lucky winners have been Mary Todd at Idaho Housing Finance Association from the first break, and Jeff Swanson at Rhode Island Housing from the second break. So next session starts at 3 o'clock Eastern. So I'll see you then. Enjoy the break.